This lady was the first one to ever walk across the bridge. This is Merle Bradley, Umstead Richie. And Merle, say something.
I was very upset to learn that only 70% of women walk across the bridge. So I want to encourage the other 30%. You don't know what you're missing. I also wanted to say that I have for many years admired Mr. Morton's stewardship. I think we all appreciate a person who is a good steward of what they have. And I have a great admiration for him, for what he's done.
I'm not going to attempt to introduce our principal speaker. Everybody knows him, and I would, if President Bush was here, I'd probably have to go to a long introduction. But Charles Kuralt, I don't have to go to a long introduction.
Thank you very much, Hugh, and it's really nice to, I've come from Dallas, from the sunshine of Dallas to be here today. I'd rather be in the mists of grandfather anytime. It's nice to see so many old friends crowded into this room and to join in celebrating the birthday of the Mile High Swinging Bridge. When the Mile High Swinging Bridge was completed, opened, and dedicated 40 years ago today, the afternoon of September the 2nd, 1952. I was starting my sophomore year at Chapel Hill. There was a great deal of fuss in the newspapers of the state about the Mile High Swinging Bridge, since, as we know, the owner and proprietor of the Mile High Swinging Bridge has never seen any reason to be diffident and retiring about the improvements to his property up here. There's always a fuss in the papers whenever anything happens on Grandfather Mountain. And from all those stories, I got the impression that the Mile High Swinging Bridge spanned a chasm 1 mile deep. You can imagine how I felt when I came up here and saw it for the first time, and observed to my surprise that the Mile High Swinging Bridge actually hangs about 80 feet above the ground. It is calculated that 6 million people have come up here to see the Mile High Swinging Bridge. How many of them would have made the trip if it were advertised as the 80-foot high Hugh Morton knows what he was doing. The first winter that the bridge was here, the winter wind came up and blew the bridge around and heaved it like a bedspread being shaken out the back door of the cabin by a mountain woman, and blew a lot of the boards out of the floor, and forced the engineers to give the Mile High Swinging Bridge a second thought. The next spring, they attached those cables that now hold the bridge to the ground below. I need hardly point out to you that since then, the Mile High Swinging Bridge, which is not a mile high, is not swinging either. So what we have here is the 80-foot high tethered bridge. Big deal. And yet somehow it is a big deal, hanging up here 5,305 feet above sea level, which gives Hugh Morton a 25-foot margin against any truth in advertising lawsuits. If you measure from Wrightsville Beach, it is a mile high. From the center of the bridge, if anybody in this room hasn't walked across it, you'll have to take my word for it. On a clear day, from the center of the bridge, you can see down into the Linville River Valley, 1,600 feet below to the west. And you can look down to the valley to the east, 4,000 feet below. And this is a sufficiently awesome experience to dissuade many otherwise brave men and women from walking across. An extensive survey of 10,000 Grandfather Mountain visitors found that 30% of the women and 12.7% of the men come all the way up here and then do not cross the bridge. Sitting over there is North Carolina's all-time great athlete, Charlie Choo Choo Justice. Never had the slightest fear of being pounded by 300-pound linebackers. For the longest time, Hugh tells me he could not bring himself to step out on the bridge. I guess on the theory that while linebackers can drop you to the ground, even they cannot drop you 80 feet to the ground. Charlie Justice has conquered his fear and now strolls across, pretending not to be nervous, as do more than 150,000 other visitors every year. The mile-high swinging bridge has been wonderful for the economy of these mountains. Visitors stop in neighboring communities to stock up on everything from picnic supplies to t-shirts, and especially if they know they're coming to the bridge on Dramamine and Valium. For no matter how brave you are, if you're a person of normal imagination, it is impossible to approach the bridge without wondering if it could fall down. And wondering if it could, might it not do so with you in the middle of it? Visitors would often hold back from stepping onto the bridge when there were only one or two other people out there. Hugh Morton had an ingenious solution. He put up a sign, load limit 40 persons. He had figured there probably never would be more than 40 persons on the bridge at one time, and he thought 40 persons sounded like a believable load limit. And so 40 persons it became. Actually, the bridge could hold 500 people with no trouble at all. But as soon as that 40-person sign went up, people would count, and if there were only 15 or 20 other people out there, they'd see that it was safe. The 40-person sign did wonders for the traffic on the mile-high swinging bridge. Everybody thinks of the bridge as a phenomenon of the mountains, but since I'm telling you all the inside stuff here on the 40th anniversary, you may as well know that it is actually entirely a product of Greensboro, North Carolina. It was designed by the architect Charles C. Hartman, Jr. of Greensboro. Its component parts were constructed in Greensboro to precise tolerances by the Truett Manufacturing Company, and it was reassembled up here and put in place in 3 short weeks by the Craven Steel Erecting Company of Greensboro, North Carolina. The whole thing cost $15,000, which tells you something about what's happened to dollars in 40 years. Now, previous speakers in the history of the mile-high swinging bridge have all been running for something. The first person to cross the bridge on September 2nd, 1952, was the Honorable William D. Umstead, who was running for governor. Candidates will do anything, of course, even risk their lives. Mr. Umstead lived through it and was duly elected governor 2 months later. And with him, holding his hand that day, was Merle Bradley Umstead, his daughter, who is sitting right here. Stand up, and you're the link with the history. The last time that a formal ceremony was held up here was on the 5th anniversary of the bridge, September 2nd, 1957, and the speaker that day was another of our memorable politicians, that great man of North Carolina, United States Senator Sam J. Ervin, Jr. who of course only had to drive 45 minutes up the mountain from Morganton to get here. I would just like to say that while this is an election year, I am not running for anything, though it appears to me that everybody else in North Carolina is running for something. I'm only here to remark on this unique and wonderful span which is lost in the fog up there above us this afternoon, and to remark on its owner, a unique and wonderful man. The bridge is as famous in our beloved mountains as the 7 wonders of the world were to the Greeks and Romans of antiquity. And they probably had anniversary celebrations like this one to commemorate the Colossus of Rhodes and the famous lighthouse at Alexandria and the hanging gardens of Babylon. They probably did not have Arthur Smith and Raymond Fairchild who play the banjo on those occasions. Although I am not so sure about Arthur. He has been around a long time. He may have been I would call the mile-high swinging bridge the 8th wonder of the world, except that I went to the Republican convention and learned in Houston that the Astrodome is the 8th wonder of the world. But this bridge is the 3rd wonder of Avery County, I'll tell you that. Right after Hugh Morton and Mildred the Bear. I've always been a little afraid myself of the bridge and of Mildred, but toward Hugh Morton I feel only affection and respect for everything he has done for North Carolina, for bringing us together yet again this afternoon, and I thank my old friend for inviting me to be here with you. Thank you.